Well, we're going to shift gears here this evening, and kind of a little different topic. We're teamed up to have Dr. Terry Griffin and Dr. Sarah Lancaster. Terry comes to us from the Ag Economics Department. He kind of specializes in, I'll say, farm data. Uh, uh, with the technology and the economics of it and things that go along. And then Sarah Lancaster, some of you were on several weeks ago. She presented on weed control in corn and soybeans, and we're glad to have her back again. But she's a weed management specialist in KSU's Department of Agronomy, and with the whole dicamba dilemma that's been surrounding here the last couple of years. They've came up with a little game theory to kind of help us make some decisions in the process of what seed herbicide interaction program that we use, and glad to have them with us to share this evening. So Sarah and Terry, it's all yours.
Thanks, Darren and Madison and the rest of y'all down there for putting this together. And thanks, Dorivar. I enjoyed your discussion. When you said that, Darren, one of the first things that came to my mind is I bet you have some folks in your area who are closer to Fayetteville than they are to Manhattan. And they may be watching some of the stuff play out in Arkansas on the dicamba dilemma. And like I said earlier, if there's any questions or comments along the way, put them in the chat box. Sarah and I are rather have a discussion than just us lecturing. So please chime in if you have a question or a comment, or if you want us to circle back. We put together a fact sheet that we put on Ag Manager in December, and this is what we're going to talk about for the next 20 minutes or so. And we'd like to have it interactive. Sarah's got some polling that we're going to do, and we'll give you the links to the fact sheet if you want to follow along or read it afterwards and get back with us. But yeah, let's talk about how we can apply game theory to this concept of weed management.
All right, thanks, Terry. So as we're kind of getting warmed up here, we do have a couple of polling questions for you guys. So if you are online, you can do a couple of things. You can use your internet browser and go to pollev.com. And then when you get there, you'll enter Sarah Lancast 648. That will be the code to get you into the activity, and then you'll be able to respond to the questions that we put up. The way I prefer to do it is to just use your cell phone and text. So you can just send a text to this number here, 37607. So that will be like the phone number that you're texting to. The message that you need to send is that same code. So Sarah Lancast 648. So if you do that, you'll get a little response back that says you're in. And then when the polling questions come up, you'll be all set and ready to go, and you can answer. So if you'll take a second and kind of get those set while we're warming up here, that would be fantastic.
So we mentioned that the fact sheet is on Ag Manager. Many of you are hopefully familiar with the K-State Farm Management website, agmanager.info. And if you go to the home page and then across the top where it says Farm Management, click on it and you'll get a drop-down list. Go down to Production Economics and then click on it and you'll get another little list, and click on Production Publications. And you'll the most recent one is the one that we're talking about tonight. It's called The Farmer's Dilemma, Social Aspects of Weed Management Decisions. Along with the PDF that you can read online or print onto paper, there's 2 videos where Sarah and I describe this in more detail if you want to take a deeper look at it than what we'll get into tonight. And also at the bottom of the screen, that's the actual URL that will take you directly to that landing page for the fact sheet.
So just, you guys are all aware of the background surrounding this, but these are some data that we collected here in Kansas. Actually, it's, one of the locations was in Ottawa. So these are some data that Tyler Meyer collected on a Kansas Soybean Commission funded project. And actually, I'm really proud of Tyler. She just got these published, so that's kind of a big deal for her as a student. But what we're looking at here is the response of different varieties to injury caused by simulated off-target movement of dicamba. So looking at yield relative to a non-treated control of the same variety. We had a Roundup Ready variety here. We had a couple of Liberty Link varieties, and then we had a Liberty Link GT27 variety. So some things to take away from this. For the most part, the varieties responded similarly within application time, but there was a difference between varieties that were exposed during vegetative growth stages, so V3, versus reproductive growth stages, R1. So as you think about things, those injury events that occur later in the season, when those soybeans are actually setting their yield components, their pods and the seeds within the pod, that's when we start to see some significant yield loss. So that being said, I hope you guys have all been able to check into the polling methods here. So if you need a reminder, here's the website and the message to send the text. But our question to you is, which of the following is the best soybean planting option? Okay, let's say that you're a farmer who really of your own accord, you don't really want to plant dicamba resistant soybeans for whatever reason. So what are you going to do? Are you going to accept the yield loss that occurs as a result of drift? Are you going to visit with a neighbor that you think may have caused drift injury that could lead to yield loss? Are you going to plant defensively? So by that I mean plant dicamba resistant soybeans, even though you really don't want to. And then the last item on the list there is other. So I see we've got an other listed here. I'm curious if the person that did that, you can, if you want to send a message to Terry or me or to the group and kind of explain what you think of as other, that would be really awesome, because it'd be good to know if there's some scenarios that we haven't considered here.
No one said that they were going to accept the yield loss.
Well, that's probably a good thing.
And no one said that they were going to seek compensation from their neighbor.
That one kind of surprises me a little bit.
It could get tense.
Conflict is not fun. Confrontation. So any other answers out there? All right.
So in the last several years, there's been a lot of media exposure on this. These were some headlines that Sarah wanted to share. If you look at social media, Twitter, it's pretty active around dicamba, and even more so in the last 6 months or so. My home state of Arkansas, there was a vote held today at the state plant board, and they're open comment for the next 30 days. And that's sort of been the hot spot that all of us are kind of watching. But these headlines are they're interesting, and some of these are as of January, about the $500,000 settlement, and each state has their own regulatory issues that would have could potentially change what individual farmers decide to do in their states.
And so we talked about the fact on the survey, nobody said that they would be willing to talk to their neighbor because of potential tense situations there. But even without that sort of intentional interaction, the situation is still having a impact on agricultural communities, as I'm sure you guys are aware. And so, with that in mind, one of the things that I had been pondering on over the course of last summer and the winter, with some of the uncertainty around the dicamba resistant technology, is just what factors were leading farmers to make these decisions, and what is really best for an individual farmer, what is really best for an agricultural community as a whole. And so talking about these situations, I sort of thought we might take a very budget driven, economic driven approach. But as we tossed ideas around, Terry suggested that we talk about game theory.
And so, thinking back to college days and economics 101, you may have had 20 minutes about game theory. But it's been really useful in business schools. And it's something that I had never applied to farm management issues until this winter. So this is my first experience at it. And game theory has been around for decades. And It's a tool, economic mathematical tool that helps to explain how individual businesses, here farms, behave the way that they do that may seem irrational or illogical from the outside, but in reality, they're very logical if you understand how one player is making the decision that's best for them, given their beliefs about what the other players of this game are trying to do. You may remember, if you're a movie buff, about 20 years ago, there was a movie called A Beautiful Mind. If you've not seen it, that's going to be your first piece of homework, is to watch A Beautiful Mind starring Russell Crowe and Jennifer Connelly. Russell Crowe portrays our protagonist in our story, John Nash, who is credited to, he was given a Nobel Prize in 1994 for presenting these theories to businesses. And we're going to apply this to weed management, to variety selection. This is our initial scenario in our fact sheet. We have, I believe, 5, and we're only going to go through 1 unless we have a lot more time and you have a lot of questions. But this is the payoff matrix with our 2 players. We have Dan, who's trying to plant defensively, choosing between extend varieties and other non-extend varieties. And Sue, who we're calling her Sprayer Sue, her nickname. And she's going to do one of 2 things. She's either going to spray dicamba successfully or spray dicamba unsuccessfully. The only thing we know about her is that she will spray dicamba. And so the purple areas of this payoff matrix is the values that Dan perceives that he will enjoy from doing each of these decisions. And Sue's belief in her returns are the values, the numbers in the not purple areas. And don't think of these as dollars or yields, but more so as ordinal ranking. 5 is better than 3, 3 is better than 1, 1 is a lot worse than 5. And so each player is going to try to do what's best for them. So let's look at this from Dan's perspective, okay? Dan has 2 choices, either to plant extend or plant something other than extend. If Dan plants extend and Sue sprays successfully, he will enjoy 3. And if Sue sprays unsuccessfully, he will also enjoy 3. But if Dan plants other, his belief is with his management abilities and his farms and his knowledge of the technology, he believes he can enjoy 5 if he plants other and Sue's able to spray successfully, but he'll only enjoy 1 if Sue is spraying unsuccessfully. What does he do? Well, let's look at Sue first. Sue has 2 choices, or in this case, there's 2 outcomes from Sue's decision to spray dicamba: a successful application and unsuccessful. If she sprays successfully, she will enjoy 3, regardless of what Dan does, whether he plants extend or other, she enjoys 3. If she sprays unsuccessfully, she enjoys 5, regardless of what Dan does, okay? Sarah, would you like to say a word about the difference between successful and unsuccessful spray? Because it may not be exactly what we think it means on the surface.
Yeah, sure. So, we're not implying here that Sue is being negligent in what she's doing with her spray. We're just acknowledging the fact that there are a lot of kind of moving parts involved with a successful application of dicamba, and also that an application that starts out successful, if the wind changes directions, all of a sudden that becomes technically an unsuccessful application. And then you have the whole secondary movement, the volatility that occurs, after the spray application is made. So there are a lot of different factors that can lead to Sue having an unsuccessful outcome, regardless of whether or not she does everything by the books.
So it's the spray that is successful or not necessarily semantics. So looking at Dan's choices, the values in the purple, 5 is much better than 3 and it's much better than 1. So on the surface, it looks like Dan would always go for other because of 5 is greater than 3 and 1. But wait, what is Sue going to do? Well, if Sue sprays successfully, she perceives her returns being 3. And if she sprays unsuccessfully, she perceives the value of her spray being unsuccessful of being 5 to her, meaning that she, under her management style, with her beliefs of the technology, she thinks she can get 5. So in either case, she's going to choose 5 over 3. So she's likely to spray unsuccessful. Well, knowing that she's going to spray unsuccessful in the column to your far right, would Dan choose 3 or 1? Would he choose 3 for the extend or 1 for the other varieties? Well, he'll choose 3 over 1. So that corner, that choice there will have a gold box around it. That is our equilibrium. And once the two parties arrive at that, if they evaluate changing their decision, well, Dan would never go from 3 to 1, so he's kind of locked in there. And Sue would not go to 3 from a 5, so she's going to continue to spray unsuccessful. This is our equilibrium. This is our Nash equilibrium. And this is tools that businesses will internalize to make decisions in what we call non-cooperative games. I referred to the movie earlier. I hope you can find it. It used to be on Netflix. I don't know if it still is. It's a good flick. It's enjoyable on its own right, but it gives you some more insight into who this person was. Hint, he had problems, but it was enjoyable. So what is the Nash equilibrium? It's the idea that someone's doing the best that they can given what the other party is doing. Okay, so Dan would rather have 5 than 3, but knowing that Sue's going to spray unsuccessful, he better choose the 3 over the 1.
So that being said, Terry did a good job of defining what the Nash equilibrium is and just how farmers are making these decisions, right? So if you think about what they value the most, in Dan's case, it would be to plant those other soybean varieties, but he's going to decide to plant extend. So plant defensively, right? And so when we did our poll at the beginning of the slide set, you guys, someone out there said that was the most logical choice. And so I guess our question is, how well did we describe in these scenarios what is actually going on? How much have farmers actually considered these payoffs that we described when they're choosing their soybean traits? Have they thought about things like the interactions in their community? Have they thought about things like weather for applications, etc.? So curious if you guys could hop on the poll one more time and tell us, did we describe the process well? Were we kind of close? Were we not even in the ballpark? We're pretty thick-skinned. If it's C, that's okay. Tell us.
It's called research. And so this was one of the scenarios we were working on. Sarah, we had 5 that we put into the fact sheet, I think.
Yeah, so we had a couple of different regulatory fine scenarios, right? So some states like Illinois have a relatively small fine. Other states like Arkansas have been levying pretty substantial fines. We saw an example from the headlines that was, nearly $500,000. So that changes those impacts. We looked at this idea of sort of off the record payment, sort of a gentleman's agreement that damage did occur. And so the farmer that likely caused the damage is going to just compensate. And in our example, Sue would compensate Dan without ever turning anything into the regulatory authorities. And then the last thing we looked at was pricing strategies. I had some questions toward the end of the winter about how some of the incentives that the companies were offering to farmers might change what guys decided to do. And so we kind of looked at that one as well.
So the regulatory fines, one of the funny things in what we found was it took a pretty sizable fine to cause a practice change within the community. And one of the things we're asking, Sarah, can you add another poll question? It's been perfect. Too late now.
Too late.
How big of a fine would it need to be in order for someone to change their way of doing things? And that we think that it's bigger than just an economic question on budgets. We think it's the social capital and your reputation within your community when it's at stake may change, but that's also a function of how many growers are using dicamba and how many growers are using Extend, so it depends on the makeup of your community. Therefore, Arkansas is going to be different than Illinois, is going to be different than Kansas.
So
Okay,
yeah,
okay, so we're at least headed in the right track. No one told us we were not even close.
I would be curious if anybody wants to share what they're thinking on the option B there. It's something like this. What did we get right? What did we get wrong? I don't know. Is anybody brave enough to tell us?
Dorivar, you are. What did we do wrong? I hope he's still there. I don't know.
Darren's unmuted. Maybe Darren will tell us what his guys are thinking.
I think just in producers I work with, I hear a lot of, it's not offense versus defense. It's more, I'm on defense. Sometimes I make my decisions on defense. The other thing that plays into it, and you talked about effect it has and compensating neighbors. Depending upon timing, it's a scary thought, but once in a while, we improve yield by just a little ding. That really throws a monkey into things.
Yeah.
So the graph early on.
Yeah, I didn't point it out on the graph, but yeah, if you look at Tyler's data, I'll jump back up there. Maybe. There we go. Yeah, actually, in the case of this old Roundup Ready variety, we saw greater yields after that early hit of dicamba. So, the responses are all over the board, Darren, just as far as the growth stage of the plant, how much dicamba was actually, was the plant actually exposed to. So I don't know. I think the decision has become a little easier for guys this year. I think just simply because of the Extend Flex system being available. So they've got a few more options there. I know there's some folks here in this part of the state that are absolutely planning on going that way and treating them like Liberty Link soybeans. So I'm not sure how common that would be in your part of the world, but
increasing rapidly. Yes.
And we know that people who are watching this after the fact can't participate in the poll, but they are welcome to, send us a message, and we've got our contact information. I think at the last.
Yeah, I'll get there.
Oops. All right. So Twitter, we're both active on Twitter, just like Dorvar is, and our email addresses are up here. Again, this is the fact sheet. I invite you to, your second piece of homework. Okay, you got the back in the day we used to say it's the Wheel of Fortune first, and then it's the Jeopardy. Well, the movie is the Wheel of Fortune, and reading the fact sheet's the Jeopardy. It's more of the intensive information, but I encourage you to read that. And if you have any questions or comments, if you think we're great doing it right, that's great. If you think we're doing it wrong, this is research. We're moving this forward. So, we would welcome your constructive criticism.
Absolutely.
Well, do we have any questions for Terry and Sarah this evening? All right, you see their contact information there, and feel free to contact them direct or come through Ryan, Rod, or myself here at one of our offices in Ottawa, Linden, or Garnett, and we'd be happy to help you. But very interesting. When I first saw this come out and was reading about it on Ag Manager, a topic that I think very, very timely and wanted to bring to you. Something they're working on, and it's a work in progress. They're continuing, and we'll see more. But definitely, it's a dilemma we have to deal with. And like I said before, are we on offense? Are we on defense? We never really thought that that would be part of our weed program. But actually, when we make our seed selection and make our decisions of what we might utilize for weed control, we are somewhat on offense or on defense. So again, thank you to Terry and Sarah for your presentation this evening. Dorvar is still on. Dorvar, we appreciate you taking the time as well. You know, when we set this meeting up, we didn't know it was going to be this beautiful of an evening. I'm sure they would all have enjoyed being out on the porch and spending a little time with family. So we appreciate that they were able to come in and be with us this evening. So with that, hey, thanks for being a part of our program, everybody. And if we can, if Rod, Ryan, or I can want to assist you out in the field or with questions, hey, feel free to give us a call. And again, hey, thanks for being a part of our meeting this evening. Thank you.
Bye-bye.